Hello everyone, Darren Sandermani here, and this is my Module 6 case study for EDL 954, Can't We Work This Out? So looking at, just to summarize what's going on, I'm the superintendent of Oakwood Unified School District in small rural blue-collar district in the Midwest, and have about 6,000 students in the district. Parents are very active and proud members of the school district. The Oakwood has 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school. Teachers are also very supportive and active. You can see them at community events, going to athletic events, going to academic and fine arts things, coming together as a community as a whole with teachers, parents, all staff members, very active and supportive. The teachers in the spring recently organized a fundraiser for a student with bone marrow cancer. Very popular student, very high achieving academically, Honor Society 4.0. So he is a survivor, and they have recently finished up that fundraiser. Around the same time in the spring, the state has announced that there are budget cuts coming to education and makes that known to all superintendents. To add to it, at the beginning of that school year in the fall, the board approved a 5% cost of living increase for teachers. So we have this issue of not having money coming in that was expected. So I, as a superintendent, form a committee to make recommendations to the board of how to save some money and proceed still giving the teachers a 5% increase. The committee identifies transportation, athletics, and elementary music as areas of cost reduction by trying some different things. And that information from the committee is going to be presented at the next board meeting. While at the board meeting, parents, teachers, coaches show up. The word gets out. It was supposed to be a little bit more secret, and this was more for information purposes, but it was leaked and people show up. Groups I present information about how to move forth with elementary music, how to move forth with athletics, and then one parent led a large group of other parents, about 100 parents, and he stands up and he is the father of the cancer surviving student and is not happy with the possibility of losing transportation, and the group begins chanting and getting loud, and he just asks, can't we work this out? So looking at legal and ethical issues, I think the first thing with legal is the board has approved that 5% raise for the teacher contracts in the fall. It's in the minutes. It's shown that it is going to take place, so there is something there. Charging families for transportation, I think, would have some issues, legality of, if they live outside that 2.5 mile that we looked up at on one of our assignments, how many students is that going to affect, and can you legally charge parents for that transportation? Looking at one of the ideas for music was to use volunteers in the elementary instead of trying to find a maybe at least experienced person, a sub, something like that. What legal issues are there going to be having volunteers, different ones maybe every day coming in? And then also just looking at the budget of spending more than what you've already budgeted and how that's going to affect your school district. Ethical issues, the committee that I formed was not very diverse at all, and I'll get into who is actually involved in that soon. A little concern about maybe, I don't even know if it's legal or ethical, about the approval of the 5% increase in the fall at the beginning of the year instead of waiting in the spring when negotiations usually take place. I think you also have the moral obligations to students to provide those fine arts and athletic opportunities to everyone. And then also parents having that financial burden of paying for transportation and athletics that they are not used to, especially coming off after the fundraiser that was just taking place. And then also just looking at what's going to happen in the future, what's going to trickle down to other programs due to these budget cuts, other athletic things, other fine arts, other just school programs, what is going to be affected. So the problem in kind of the nutshell is me as the superintendent and the board have to find a way to balance the budget of Oakwood USD with the state's announcement of the unanticipated budget cuts to school districts. Looking at the knowns and unknowns, the people involved in this, the superintendent, me, the Board of Education members, the committee that I formed with 2 district office staff, a teacher from each building, and a PTO president, so a very small group here in the committee. Mr. Jackson, the father of the cancer surviving student, who is kind of the spokesperson of the largest parent group about transportation. Other parents, students, and community members of the Oakwood School District. So this takes place in the Unified School District of Oakwood, a blue-collar community in the Midwest of about 6,000 students. They're very close and supportive community, well-educated. There is a university in close proximity, about 30 miles away. After graduating high school, they may go to that university and move right back to town. And this is taking place at the Board of Education meeting during the spring. Programs involved, teacher contracts. We have the state budget cuts from the governor. All students are involved. Transportation department, music department, the athletic department, parents, and other community members. Looking at the information to review, I feel that this situation is damaging to almost everybody in the community. Staff, students, parents, community members, everybody's going to be affected by this proposal. Maybe not some community members that do not have kids in the district, but still could have some negative effects by it. I think everybody has an important stake in the outcome. Everyone from Board of Education members, me as the superintendent, other administrators, teachers, bus drivers, coaches, students, parents, and other community members. Everybody has an important stake and needs to have a voice in this outcome. And with that, the committee that I formed did not have all stakeholders involved. So not everyone has been consulted. And I think there is a lot more that I could learn about this situation, like how much money is the district actually losing from these cuts? What did the spending look like previously in the district? How much was the fundraising done for the Jackson family? How long do we have as the district to make a decision? Are there any reserve funds? Are there areas where we could spend less in another budget line item? And I need to learn. I would like to know more about the negotiated raise and the timing of it being in the fall. And I feel at this time I don't really have enough information to make a decision without knowing some more about these questions I have above, and without just knowing the Oakwood School District and the budget itself. So now looking at options and consequences. Option 1, I could, as a superintendent, take no further action. I'd just be ignoring what the state has announced. Teachers would get their 5% increase and no programs would be cut. Option 2, I would go forth with the committee's plan and recommend this option to the Board of Education and just make the cuts and ignore the voices being heard at the Board of Education meeting. Option 3, I could reach out to other superintendents in the area or across the state, similar size, and just see how they're progressing with the cuts and what their plans are, and use that information to start planning with the administrative team. Or option 4, I could just start the process all over again, scratch it, get more people involved in the committee to meet and identify areas to save money and not have such a significant impact on major programs and services. So option 1, looking at the pros, up front, everyone's going to be happy. No cuts, everyone's going to get their raise, everyone's going to be happy. Teachers, students will still have access to transportation, music, and athletics. It eliminates having those difficult conversations with principals and teachers, and bus drivers, and all that. And there's no financial burden to the parents. Cons, not financially healthy for the district at all. Shows poor leadership. More difficult decisions are probably going to have to be made in the future, and eventually everyone's going to be upset because eventually cuts are going to have to be made. Option 2, just make the cuts. Pros, this will save the district the money that the committee came up with. Ultimately, it will be the board's decision on the proposal from the committee, and it avoids having those difficult conversations right then and there. Cons, it really shows a lack of transparency and communication, which equals poor leadership. Many stakeholders will be affected and upset with the decision. Trust and respect may be lost by staff and other stakeholders in the community. You can feel probably a feel of apprehension by some of the teachers to even be working in the district. And parents are going to have that financial burden of paying for transportation, athletics, and those type of things. And there's a pretty huge risk of superintendent losing your job. Option 3, collaborate with other administrators in the state, in the area. Pros, you can kind of see what other school districts the same size, what they're doing and how they're going to progress moving forward with these cuts. Also, you have other voices are heard throughout the entire district, and it will upfront save the district money. Cons, the administrators will be upset, principals, assistant principals, curriculum directors, whatever it might be, of the ideas of losing staff and programs. Still on this, not all voices in the district will be heard. You're not involving teachers necessarily at the upfront and other community members, stakeholders. It can be a timely process, and eventually cuts are still going to probably have to be made somewhere. Option 4, starting from scratch, starting all over. Everyone's voice is going to be heard in this process. You bring more ideas to the conversation instead of just a few. It shows transparency and communication within the district, and it also builds trust and relationships with all stakeholders having a voice. Cons, it is a long process to get this worked out. Difficult conversations are going to have to be made. Superintendent might become more of a facilitator and a peacekeeper. People are still going to be upset, and there's going to be a lack of understanding from some stakeholders, from community parents, that just understanding of education and the budgets that take place within the school district. So my decision would be to probably move forward with option 4 of involving everybody to get more voices from stakeholders and get more ideas of how to save the district money. So looking at implementation, I would begin by creating a district site council steering committee if there isn't one already created, and get membership from Board of Education, other administrators, teachers, other staff, students, and community members, along with parents. Develop informative presentations for members to fully understand what's going on and why we must make these changes. And kind of in that first meeting, create those group norms and values of we have to find a solution. Everybody's going to have a voice, those type of things to make sure the meetings go smoothly. Communicate the information and give time for everybody to provide feedback, whether it's doing surveys, focus groups, give everybody time. You got to set priorities of providing an equitable education for all students, pre-K through 12. Brainstorm ideas on how the district should move forward in those sessions. And then you're going to, within those, you're going to develop multiple plans using the priorities and feedback from the group. You're going to evaluate findings with the stakeholders and come to a consensus. Then moving forward, you're going to present that information to board, support recommendations based on stakeholder feedback, and allow the board to vote. Once that is done, if it is approved, you're going to share that information with all stakeholders in the district, and then consistently monitor the plan and communicate with all parties involved in progress. So thank you. Credits, Slides Mania, of course, for the template here, Google Photos for the images, and ScreenPal for recording purposes. And thank you for taking your time to watch this. Really enjoyed looking at this and thinking about the finances of something that really truly could happen to a school district at in a year, and looking at my district at this of transportation is sacred. Almost every single one of my students, well, elementary wise, everybody is transport, everybody is assigned a bus. We encompass 435 square miles, so transportation is very important to our school building, along with music program and fine arts. But transportation, if we were to make a decision like that, would be huge. So this one kind of really set home with me. So I really enjoyed looking at this and making this presentation. So, and the references about where this case study came from. Thank you. Have a good day.